The sacred balance, Deen and Dunya. Through the lens of Sufism, peace be upon you all, and may divine blessings illuminate our gathering today. We stand at a crossroads that has challenged seekers of truth throughout the ages. The relationship between Deen and Dunya, between the sacred and the worldly, between the eternal and the temporal. This is not merely an intellectual puzzle to be solved through logic alone, but a lived reality that demands the wisdom of the heart, the very wisdom that Sufism or tasawwuf has cultivated for over a millennium. When we speak of Deen and Dunya, we often fall into the trap of viewing them as opposing forces, as if we must choose between spiritual devotion and worldly engagement, between the mosque and the marketplace, between prayer and profession. But such binary thinking reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of both Islamic spirituality and the Sufi path. The great masters of tasawwuf have shown us that this perceived conflict is itself an illusion born of the veiled heart. Let us begin by understanding what these terms truly mean. Deen, often translated simply as religion, carries a far more profound meaning. It encompasses the entire way of life prescribed by the divine, the complete submission to Allah's will, the path of righteousness that guides every breath, every action, every intention. It is the vertical relationship between the servant and the Lord, the rope extended from heaven to earth that we cling to for salvation. Dunya, on the other hand, refers to this temporal world, this immediate realm of material existence where we find ourselves as travelers. It is the earth beneath our feet, the bread that sustains us, the families we cherish, the work we perform. But the dunya is not inherently evil, as some would mistakenly believe. Rather, it is a testing ground, a field where seeds are planted that will be harvested in the hereafter. The Sufi masters understood something that escapes many, that the dunya becomes poison only when it becomes the ultimate goal, when the means is mistaken for the end, when the mirror is worshipped instead of the reflected one. Imam al-Ghazali, that towering intellect who bridged orthodox scholarship and mystical experience, wrote extensively about this in his masterwork, Ihya Ulum-al-Din. He taught us that the world is not to be abandoned entirely, but rather to be engaged with in the proper spirit, with the correct orientation of the heart. Consider the metaphor that the Sufis often employ. The dunya is like a boat, and we are travelers upon the ocean, seeking the shore of the hereafter. A wise traveler does not sink the boat in hatred of its material nature, nor does he become so enamored with decorating the vessel that he forgets his destination. The boat is necessary, useful, even beautiful when appreciated correctly, but it is not home. The Sufi maintains this delicate awareness, living fully in the world while remaining unattached to it, engaging completely while maintaining inner detachment. This brings us to a central Sufi concept, presence with absence, or in Arabic, al-huzur ma'al-ghaiba. The Sufi seeks to be present in the dunya, fulfilling responsibilities, engaging with people, working with integrity, while simultaneously absent from it in terms of ego attachment and spiritual heedlessness. The body walks the earth, but the heart sojourns in divine remembrance. The hands perform worldly tasks, but the soul remains oriented toward the eternal. The blessed Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, embodied this perfect balance in his own life. He was a merchant, a statesman, a military leader, a husband, a father, fully engaged in the dunya. Yet his heart was always with his Lord. He would stand in night prayer until his blessed feet swelled, and when asked why he exerted himself so, when Allah had already forgiven his sins, he replied, "Should I not be a grateful servant?" This is the model the Sufis seek to emulate. Complete engagement with worldly responsibilities coupled with complete devotion to the divine. The great Sufi master Rumi expressed this beautifully when he said, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." This profound statement captures the Sufi understanding of our dual nature. We exist in the dunya, confined by space and time, yet we carry within us something infinite, something that connects directly to the divine reality. The challenge is to live in awareness of both dimensions simultaneously. Let us examine how the Sufis approach various aspects of worldly life through this balanced lens. Take wealth, for instance. The Sufis do not categorically condemn wealth, as evidenced by the fact that many great masters, including Abdul Qadir Jilani and Ahmad al-Rifai, managed considerable resources. What they condemn is the love of wealth, the attachment that enslaves the heart. The Sufi teaching distinguishes between having money in your hand versus having money in your heart. Gold in the hand can be used to feed the hungry, support the destitute, and maintain one's family with dignity. But gold in the heart becomes an idol that displaces the remembrance of Allah. Similarly, with regard to family life and relationships, the Sufis have never advocated wholesale abandonment of social responsibilities. The path of tasawwuf is not necessarily a path of renunciation, though some may be called to that station. For most seekers, the family becomes a sacred training ground for the dissolution of ego. Marriage teaches patience, parenthood cultivates selfless love, and maintaining family ties develops the virtues of mercy, forgiveness, and compassion. These are not obstacles to the spiritual path. They are the very substance of it when approached with awareness. The concept of work and profession receives similar treatment in Sufi thought. Labor is not viewed as a distraction from worship, but as a form of worship itself when performed with the right intention. The Prophet said, Allah loves that when one of you performs a task, he perfects it. Excellence in one's craft, honesty in business dealings, service to others through one's work, these become acts of devotion. The Sufi shopkeeper who treats customers with fairness and kindness, who remembers Allah while weighing goods, who sees his shop as a place of service rather than merely profit, this person is engaged in a form of worship that rivals formal prayer in its spiritual significance. This brings us to the crucial Sufi concept of ihsan, often translated as spiritual excellence or virtue. The Prophet defined ihsan as worshiping Allah as though you see him, and if you cannot see him, knowing that he sees you. This state of consciousness transforms every action, every moment, every interaction into a spiritual practice. When ihsan permeates one's being, the distinction between Deen and Dunya begins to dissolve, not because the two become identical, but because the Dunya becomes transparent to the divine presence that underlies it. The Sufi sees Allah's attributes reflected in creation. The beauty of a flower becomes a window to divine beauty. The mercy shown by a mother to her child reflects divine mercy. The intricate order of the cosmos points to divine wisdom. This is not pantheism, which the Sufis reject, but rather a recognition that creation serves as a book of signs for those with eyes to see. The Dunya, when viewed through the purified heart, becomes a vast cathedral in which every element hymns the praises of its creator. However, the Sufis are also acutely aware of the dangers that the Dunya presents. The nafs, the lower self or ego, constantly seeks to establish its sovereignty, to make itself the center of existence. It uses the Dunya as its playground, finding in worldly attachments the fuel for its dominance. The Sufi path involves a lifelong struggle, a greater jihad, against this tyrannical nafs. Through spiritual practices, dhikr, contemplation, self-examination, service to others, the Sufi works to purify the heart and subordinate the nafs to the spirit. Sheikh Abu Sa'id al-Kharaz once said, "The Sufi is he who sees nothing in both worlds other than Allah." This is the pinnacle of Sufi realization, not the physical blindness to creation, but a spiritual vision that penetrates through the surface of phenomena to the underlying reality. When this vision is attained, the question of balancing Deen and Dunya becomes obsolete because everything is seen as manifestation of the one. Every moment becomes an opportunity for remembrance. Every action becomes worship. Yet we must be careful not to mistake the station of the realized masters for our own current state. The path to this unified vision passes through stages of disciplined practice, sincere struggle, and gradual transformation. The Sufis identify various stations on the path: repentance, trust, patience, gratitude, love, and each station involves a particular relationship with the Dunya. In the station of repentance, one may need to actively distance oneself from worldly attachments. In the station of gratitude, one learns to appreciate the blessings of the Dunya without becoming enslaved to them. In the station of love, the dunya becomes transparent, and one sees only the beloved in all things. The concept of fana and baka, annihilation and subsistence, is central to understanding the Sufi approach to Deen and Dunya. Fana involves the dissolution of the ego self and its worldly attachments, a dying before death. But fana is not the end of the journey. After fana comes baka, a subsistence or permanence in God that allows the Sufi to return to the world, to engage with the dunya, but now transformed. The one who has experienced fana and baka operates in the world with perfect balance, neither rejecting it nor becoming entrapped by it, serving creation while seeing only the Creator.